Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Paul Westendorp. I'm the Chief of the Investment Promotion section in UNCTAD, and I will be moderating this session on SDG model zones. As you have heard in the previous panel that we had this morning, special economic zones are dealing with a lot of challenges, and one of those challenges is to become more sustainable and to make some contributions to the Sustainable Development Goals. The Sustainable Development Goals that many of you are already familiar with. For those who are not, these are 17 goals set in 2015 by the United Nations General Assembly. And these goals are all important. Some deal with poverty alleviation, some deal with zero hunger. And others, also very important goals, are very close to the work that is done in special economic zones. And that is why you have so many UN agencies also being engaged with special economic zones. And I'm talking about decent work, which is one of the goals, or industrial innovation, or gender equality, or clean energy. And in reaching these goals, SDGs can make a difference. So it is about the transfer of special economic zones to more sustainable zones that we're going to talk about. We have labeled it SDG model zones. That is since we, in 2019, had a World Investment Report that presented that particular concept. And for those who are interested in it, it's online available. It is a concept that is being picked up. And that is something that we're going to talk about this afternoon. Before I introduce the members of the panel, I still like to say a few words about this topic. This workshop is being organized in the context of the Global Alliance of Special Economic Zones, and one of the main objectives of this Global Alliance is to create a new generation of special economic zones for sustainable development. And it is this can be done through different ways. It can be done through the design of zones, it can be done in the operations of zones, and it can be done through a strategic focus. In design, we can think about that zones produce renewable energy and have an excess of energy which they provide to communities that are close to the zones, or that they have health services for people working in the zones, but also provide that to communities outside the zones. In the operations, that zones put some ESG standards in place for firms that are invited to operate in the zone, and then also help these zones through their services in improving their ESG performance. And it can also be through the strategic focus, like having zones dealing with health, and we will have an example of that in this panel, or dealing with education, or zones, as was mentioned this morning by Annette, that deals with agri-tech, and through those activities contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. Now, the SDG investment has been quite affected due to the COVID-19 crisis. We were very good on our way and there was a lot of finance and investment moving in Sustainable Development Goal-related projects and sectors. But in the last two years, most of those gains have been wiped out. So we have to recover that again. Now, the World Investment Report that came out last week was noticing that SDG investment is up to 70%, but that is very much in a particular area, in the renewable energy sector, while other sectors are still struggling, like even the health sector, which you would expect would have picked up. There's still a lack of investment in that. So that is something that we need to discuss. Besides that, we have the Ukraine crisis, the war, we have the war in Ukraine, we have still, we're still living with the COVID-19 pandemic, so there's still the foreign direct investment flows they went up in 21, but you heard this morning that the 22 expectations are gloomy. So how do you still attract SDG-related investment to zones, and how do you transform these zones and change their value proposition? Now that leaves me then, and that is then the subject that we would like to discuss with this panel. And let me then introduce the panel members from and I start then with Gustavo Gonzalez de Vega. He is the president of the Free Trade Zone of the Americas. It's an organization with hundreds of members, and that are special economic zones in Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as in Spain, I understand. It covers 2 continents, and they are also a founding member of the Global Alliance of Special Economic Zones. Next to him is Diana Edwards. She is the president of JAMPRO, the Jamaican Development Corporation, no, Promotions Corporation. She has also been the president of the Caribbean Association of Investment Promotion Agencies. She's actually still the first vice president of the association that UNCTAD has been working with for many years now in helping investment promotion agencies here in the Caribbean to attract investment. Next to her is Mr. Carlos Wong. He is the general director of the Coyol Free Zone in Costa Rica. This is a zone that has that strategic focus that I told you earlier about on life science. It is a zone that has already received several awards for innovation, for sustainability. So maybe he can share with us some of those experiences that they have. And I also want to mention that Costa Rica Investment Promotion Agency, CINDE, last year won the United Nations Award for excellence in the promotion of investment in the health sector. And very good effort that is made by CINDE. And if you're interested in it, you can visit their website, very impressive. Then here on my right, I have Jacqueline Sutherland. She is the president and founder, as well as CEO of the Contact 360 PB Business Process Outsourcing Solutions Incorporated in Jamaica. I believe you have 2 locations that you're operating here, and one of them is in the Montego Bay Special Economic Zone. So she can provide us with some of the private sector perspectives in how private sector companies are dealing with sustainability and what they may expect from zones to do in return. And then on the far right is Mr. Juan Pablo Rivera. He is the CEO of Zona Franca Bogotá in Colombia. This is a big zone with tens of thousands of people working there in an urban setting, which we find very interesting. And how do these zones interact with the people in the city and with the businesses in the city, and how to do that also in a sustainable way. So that will give us some insights on that. And I have been working with UN Habitat in Nairobi, and we have written also some papers on that whole relationship between urban cities and special economic zones. There is interpretation for this session. A few of the speakers will intervene in Spanish. So you can get headphones, or you have already headphones for that. So with that, I would like to start the conversation with Diana Edwards. I would like her to ask in how JAMPRO over the years, and I know that you're aware of the sustainability agenda and the SDGs, but how then in the work of JAMPRO are you incorporating these SDGs in your operations? Can you maybe shed some light on that, and maybe you have also an example that you can share? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Really pleased to be here, and thanks you all for coming. And let me just say thanks to the organizers, the World Free Zone Organization, for organizing such an exciting conference. You know, Jamaica has a number of free zones, over 160 special economic zones. And you know, we transitioned to special economic zones in 2018, 2019, to get the companies who were in free zones into special economic zones, which was a new dispensation. And what is really important about that is that one of the driving forces was to integrate the special economic zones much more into the economic fabric of the economy. Before that, they were just enclaves, separated really from the Jamaican economy by a customs wall. What we've tried to do in JAMPRO with working with the special economic zones is to create more linkages and more integration. Actually, we are all guided by Jamaica's Vision 2030, which was actually published in 2007, so before the SDGs were even talked about. But we have since really researched and analyzed this Vision 2030 and found that it actually is totally aligned with the SDG goals. The SDG goals of sustainability, creation of good jobs, decent work, a lot of these goals are very much aligned with our Vision 2030. In 2017, we actually developed a roadmap for SDG implementation, which was the product of a collaboration between national focal points, including our Planning Institute of Jamaica, our Statistical Institute, and UNDP. And this meant that we found a way now to really embed the SDG goals into what we are doing. From a JAMPRO point of view, we are working on the National Investment Policy, which is a new departure for Jamaica, a new direction, because we've not before had a national investment policy which will drive and coordinate our relationship with investors, and that is totally aligned to the SDG goals. So we've embedded those goals. We're also targeting AgTech, and AgTech is going to be a big feature of our new special economic zones, because AgTech means that addressing the food security issues, addressing the sustainability issues, addressing all sorts of issues that surround renewable energy, greening of the economy. We're actually working on a green investment strategy, which is already in draft form. And I can say that all of these initiatives are very much aligned to the SDG goals. In terms of the Jamaica Special Economic Zone Authority, and I see Ainsley Brown sitting there from the SEZ, they promote a concept which is called sustainability. And that livity is really a Rastafarian take on, you know, how do you promote quality of life, decent quality of life that is in harmony with nature. And that's what the SEZ is trying to promote. And in terms of the new and improved and environmentally friendly special economic zones, we're really looking at the Caymanas Special Economic Zones, one of the projects that we have listed here in our investment vault, as embodying the new type of zone, because the concept for that zone is really in harmony with nature. It's environmentally friendly, it's landscape, it's creating a new ethos and a new integration between, as I said, the SEZ and the economy. And the final thing I would say is that we are working on a linkages policy, which is really promoting local sourcing on the part of special economic zones, because we want them to get more services and more cluster development around the special economic zone so that they can become a driver of the economy and a driver of economic growth. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Diane. Gustavo, I want to actually ask you the same question as president of the association. How do you communicate with your members in bringing that message on sustainability? What also are your plans maybe going forward?
Okay. Thank you, Paul. First of all, really congrats for this event. It's a pleasure for me to be here. We have been working a lot for a long time, at least since 2019 in the World Investment Report, working to this global alliance, and we are so excited today. It's really a pleasure for us. So as I told you, I would like to continue in Spanish for our Latin American attendees. So, Paul, pues tal como comentas, en nuestro caso tenemos muchos ejemplos de cómo nuestras zonas francas en la región están desarrollando los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible. Solamente darte unos datos para entender la importancia que tienen las zonas económicas especiales en nuestra región, y es que contamos en nuestros 25 países con más de 600 zonas económicas especiales, dentro de las cuales hay hasta 13.000 empresas que son capaces de generar 1 millón de empleos directos y también 2 millones de empleos indirectos. Desde luego que con estas cifras habla por sí solo la importancia que tienen las zonas francas en nuestra región, pero hay un elemento más relevante. Durante nuestras reuniones, preparando esta alianza global, ya comentábamos que las zonas económicas especiales se presentan como los mejores embajadores de los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible. Es más, en este periodo actual, ya todas nuestras zonas francas son conscientes que más allá de los incentivos fiscales que, por supuesto, persisten, el cumplir con los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible se ha convertido en una auténtica ventaja competitiva, porque es que las propias empresas demandan ya el hecho de que en nuestros espacios se cumplan todos estos elementos. Tal como señalaba, podemos presentarles muchos ejemplos. De hecho, contamos aquí con Carlos Huón y con Juan Pablo, dos de los mejores ejemplos de la región. Pero, por ejemplo, hay datos que seguro que no conocen. Por ejemplo, Paul, no sé si sabes que en países como República Dominicana se ha alcanzado una proporción del 50% de empleos femeninos y masculinos dentro de la zona franca, además de otras zonas francas que están estableciendo programas específicos para la igualdad de género. O, por ejemplo, cómo trabajamos en el Objetivo de Desarrollo Sostenible de trabajo digno, puesto que en nuestras zonas económicas especiales, de media, los trabajadores cobran el doble de lo que se cobra fuera de estos territorios, con casos concretos como Uruguay, en el que se cuadruplica.
Just to interrupt, the interpretation is not working. There's a technical failure with the interpretation. Now, yeah, it first has to be fixed. Is there anybody in charge of the interpretation here?
No problem, Paul. Try in English, okay?
Yeah, no, this morning it worked well, but it's not going now.
No, it's no problem. Okay,
yeah.
So another example for you is we are reducing inequalities because we are working in special economic zones, specifically in low-income areas, and we are working in transform these ecosystems. And for example, in the safety inside of special economic zones. And education is for us one of the most important goals, because we need the human talent. And we have a really good example here with Zona Franca Bogotá, with Unifranca, for sure Juan Pablo to tell us after. And we need inside our special economic zones to do training to the capability, the digital capacity to the new roles, the new jobs in these digital new sectors inside our free trade zones. Also, the green energy, the concept of green special economic zones is right here, the renewable energies, because the companies demand that. I remember in Tenerife, we have a case in which one company choose us better than another places, even expensive our cost in this territory, but because our data center is with renewable aeolic energy, absolutely in this data center. So actually we need this accomplishment for SDGs to be more competitive. And also for, of course, our infrastructure innovation infrastructure, the connectivity, data, we are changing through these new sectors. And finally, the 17 SDG, you know, the Alliance for the Goals. And I think this is the best example right now, today. We are here just doing this alliance to get the goals of SDGs in our region and globally.
Thank you very much, Gustavo, also for translating that for me. Is that problem with the interpretation now fixed, or? Yes? Okay, it's supposed to be okay. Though I would move now to Mr. Carlos Wong. He is the, as I said, the General Director of Coyol Free Zone in Costa Rica. Focused on medical devices, I understand. Maybe can you say a little bit more on that strategic focus?
Yes, thank you for the invitation on today, and thank you for the organizers and to UNTAC for structuring this nice event. For us, it's an event that is very important because through this event we can talk about what is sustainability. I would say that Coyol won't be Coyol unless sustainability is a heart of our free zone. How we started? We have 15 years of operations in Coyol. In 15 years, we have reached a number of 18,500 employees, direct employees in our free zone. 50% of our employees are women, the other 50% men. We also have or represents in our free zone a significant number of the total exports of Costa Rica. We represent 55% of the total exports of medical devices in Costa Rica. That means that we are exporting well over $2.2 billion in medical devices every year to almost 120 different countries. Our free zone also is very important to the Costa Rican economy, representing almost 2.7% of the total GDP of Costa Rica. So in 15 years, we went from a very simple sugarcane farm to a real free zone. And particularly in the last 5 years, we started a formal program of sustainability. How we start that program? We started by creating a strategy of sustainability as part of our yearly planning process. And we started also to collect the data in order to create a report of sustainability using the GRI initiative system. And every year we are putting a report starting from past 2 years. The report for 2021 is coming out this Wednesday, and you can review our reports, are public, so it has all reports of sustainability in our gentecoyol.com website. So that way you can review all numbers of our sustainability strategy. And how we did that strategy? We basically focus in 6 elements of the economic sustainable goals. And basically, we've concentrated in education, production, and responsible consume, in life of terrestrial ecosystems, in decent work and economic growth, industrial innovation and infrastructure, and alliances for the objectives. How we did it? We basically started working with the people and how education is a very important pillar in order to improve the conditions that the people require in order to work in different environments as medical devices. We have 34 companies now working in Coyol. 32 of those companies are medical devices. So in order to have the people that is required to those kind of operations, we needed to change the way that the education system works. So we started working in 3 different areas. One is infrastructure improvements. We worked with all the schools and technical high schools of the area in order to improve the infrastructure that they have with STEM labs also with programs in terms of teaching STEM, for example, skills in the kids from the school level all the way to high schools. And we start also working with an important program that the Costa Rica government initiated, which is, we call it dual education, which means that the children that are, well, boys that are located in the vocational high schools can come and do their last 2 years on a mutual program where they're going to be half of their time working in a company and half of the time working also and studying in their high school. That program, we started the program working with the government in terms of putting the law, in terms of putting the bylaws. We are members of the National Commission of the Dual Education in Costa Rica. And now we put the first 3 companies that are medical devices companies working with this program. With a pilot program, we expect that this is going to continue working. So the area of working with the people is very important. Education then becomes one of the most significant pillars in terms of sustainability, because basically people are the heart of what we do. If we have the adequate people, then the productivity will be what the company requires, and then we will have prepared people for the future. So we're basically working in that area as one of our most important strategies. In that area, then the public alliances are also very important with the Ministry of Public Works, with the National Training Institute, and with the high schools that are located in our area. Then the other point that we have in terms of what we are doing is how do we move the people. The mobility of the people is an area that we wanted to work in terms of creating sustainable actions. And we started creating a program in where we control by electronic means a system that operates 198 different buses that moves around 12,000 people that comes to our free zone. So we bring the people from different towns and cities and move them through. And this program basically reduces not only the tickets that they used to pay in the past, but also make the system much more efficient as a multi-user kind of transportation means. The next step for our program will be to reduce the carbon footprint of that transportation network. So that is our goal for the next few years. So we will be working with electric buses in order to improve the conditions of that transportation system. And then the other element that we worked in terms of people was related to the way that they can get a job. So we created during the pandemic, you know, a lot of people cannot come to a place to receive training. So we created a program that you can basically take it on your iPhone or your phone. So it takes 48 hours of training in your phone that you can get certified using your phone and get this program to prepare you for the medical devices industry works. So this program has been taken now by almost 5,000 people that took the courses, and now we have a database, not only of these people, but also people that continually are looking to jobs. So the other area then we work with the companies is in order to create an important support in how to hire the people. So people, again, one of our most important elements. The other element is related to efficiency of use of resources. In that area, we worked with electrical panels and put it systems to efficiently use the energy. We work with water, reuse of water, and collection of rainwater.
1 more minute.
Okay, yeah. Nice, okay. I'll try to end with a conclusion on that. So what is the most important element in terms of sustainability for us? That sustainable is very important, that you have to define a strategy in order to be successful. We've been recognized as the best resort in the area, but also that is based on sustainable principles, and that's what we are currently working every day in relation not only with our stakeholders, but also with the community. The involvement with the community is also very important because in that involvement, then you generate another important element of our strategy, which are the backward linkages with local producers that allow us then to generate higher value added in our free zone.
Thank you very much, Carlos. To be honest, I'm always impressed by the Costa Rica experience and how always on the cutting edge you are in many of these areas. With education, you were that already for many years in trying to make that match with industry. And I know that CINDE also plays a very big role in that. And I maybe want to ask you a little bit later how that relationship between you and CINDE is in this. I think you work pretty closely together. But maybe wait for that question later. And also in the measurement of special, it's well deserved, yeah. And also the measurement of the SDGs, the impact of that's also that effort that is being made by the government to do that as well. Jacqueline, I will ask you a little bit later what the private sector perspective on this is. And first, would like to go to then Juan Pablo and also ask then within your zone what your experience is in moving that sustainability agenda. I know that the Colombian government also have that in its strategy, and how as a zone do you deal with that?
Thank you, Paul, and thanks to UNTAD for inviting us to be here with you all in this panel. The Bogotá Free Zone is a free zone that is celebrating 25 years this year, and the initiation of its operation. And as Carlos mentioned, we didn't have sugarcane, we have cows, 400 cows in the area where the free zone is operating right now. At this moment, we have within the zone 200 companies that are qualified users and 200 companies that support the operation of these other 200 users. These 400 companies at the moment are generating around 30,000 people, and this is the only free zone, permanent free zone, an industrial park that is within the city. The other free zones that are around the area are outside Bogotá, so it is very interesting because we have a very close relation between the free zone and the local government. That's something that has been very important for us in order to develop all our strategy. Since the beginning, we have oriented our operation and our free zone, making it very sensitive on sustainability. Since 2009, we implemented a very important, very solid waste management program that has been a pilot for many other free zones and many other parks around the Bogotá region and including in Colombia. At the moment, we are collecting, let's say, around 70% of the materials that are out of the production lines and are being recycled, and with certified companies in a program that is very interesting because we encourage our users to recycle those raw materials that are not used within the process and to gain some out of it in order to lower the cost of the administration of the park. So that's something that is a gain-gain relation with our users and has made them very success and also the park with this particular program. Also, we have developed a very close relation with our user in a program that we called Frankly Responsible, francamente responsable in Spanish. And this is a program in which all of the users work together with us in order to determine which are the needs of each company in terms of mobility, in terms of training, in terms of developing the ecosystem around inside the free zone. And that has been very successful for us in order to develop that particular ecosystem inside the free zone. Particularly, we have developed a training program that we called Unifranca, that is the university within the free zone. It's not that we are developing training programs by ourselves. We have done alliances with some technological and professional universities within the city in order to provide these training programs to our users. So in this particular program, we started like 10 years ago. We have trained more than 10,000 people. They have already got their certifications from these particular programs, and gives them the opportunity to go to work, then go to study, and then go home. And also, in this particular Frankly Responsible program, we work in something that in Bogota, the ones that knows the Bogota traffic, how to develop, let's say, the mobility within the area. And we have encouraged our users, our companies within the zone, to attract people that walks around the free zone in order to diminish the carbon footprint, making them to contract people that are surrounding the area. 2 kilometers around the free zone, we have more than 2 million people living around. So for them, it's very easy to access the free zone by bicycle or even walking. So it is also a gain-gain relation between the workers and the companies. Also, since 2013, we have been part of the Global Compact program of the United Nations. We're part of the board, the Colombian board. And since then, we are reporting our GRI report annually. Also, you can find it in our webpage, www.grupocfb.com, in which we work in several of the Sustainable Development Goals and oriented on the principles of the Global Compact in the ways and the matters that I have already said. And there is something that is also very, very deep in our DNA that we consider one of the most important and let's say the final skill within a zone, that is the ethical program about how the trade and the operations, the trade operations, has to be done within the zone. We have worked a lot with it and worked with our own workers within the zone and the workers with the companies, make them understand that the only way to do trade in the free zones is with the honest work and ethical work. That's something that for us is very important. We do a lot of training to our people to make them know the regulations of the free zones, and also to know which are our role in the free zone regime in Colombia, in which we have let's say a public attestment, let's say, for the job that we do in letting in and out the goods that goes in and out of the free zone. So we as our operator user has a big responsibility, and that's something that we work very close with our workers in order to make them understand the importance of this job that they're doing actually. So in conclusion, this is something that we have worked since the beginning, not only with the infrastructure of the free zone, with the energy supplies, with the trees that we have planted around the free zone, 15,000 plants around the native plants around the streets of the free zone, the telecommunications, all that, but also the super infrastructure, you know, the ethical part of this type of industry that is something that we believe that is very important to comply. That is one of the sustainable development goals that we have to support.
Thank you very much, Juan Pablo. I had the chance once to also visit one of the cut flower farms just outside Bogota and was extremely impressed. They got a certification from one of the NGOs for sustainable flowers and how they how this whole farm, how the whole social system and the whole environmental system was according to pretty strict rules, waste management, schooling of kids for the people who are employed there, etc. And that certification gave, of course, the farm the possibility to sell the flowers a little bit more expensive as sustainable flowers in the American market. So I know that in Colombia already a lot of these initiatives are ongoing.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah. So with that, I would like to move then to Jacqueline and ask her. In the private sector, it's maybe more difficult to push this sustainability agenda because you have your profit margins and you cannot do it all. So it is bit by bit, but many companies and for smaller SMEs companies that is more difficult than for the bigger ones are working on it. And for a company like you, what do you see as within your scope, and what do you expect then from a special economic zone, for instance, to provide as a service to help you in that journey?
Well, I'd first like to welcome everyone. Okay, can you hear me now? Much better. Well, I'd first like to thank everyone. I would like to put my experience into the proper context so everyone will understand where I'm coming from. I have a small, locally owned BPO in the Montego Bay Free Zone. I have been in operations now for just over 15 years, and Jamaica has recognized phenomenal growth in this sector from where I sit, and I see some of my colleagues over here, so I'm sure they will agree. When I started, as a country, I think we didn't immediately embrace the opportunity that existed for us to become a significant player within the BPO sector. And fast forward, and I think at Usain Bolt speed, to be exact, we have recognized phenomenal growth in this sector. And I think it's a testament to the government's participation in this sector and the fact that they have now embraced what we can do within the BPO sector. I think for Jamaica and for a lot of smaller companies like ourselves, countries like ourselves, this is seen as a significant industry for our country. And so because of that, I think we dedicate a lot of attention to what is needed for us to see and grow this sector to where we know it can be. My background is in technology, and when I first started the business, there were not a lot of players in this space, but for me it was important for me to look at ways that we could create an infrastructure that was both cost-effective and sustainable. So we were very cognizant of that. As we continued to grow as a country, some of the things that became very apparent very quickly was the need to train, mentor, and groom our BPO next generation, if you will. I take great pride in the fact that a lot of the managers and directors that I see in some of the larger international organizations got their foot in the door from working with a company like mine. I believe that because of what we're doing as a country for sustainability of this sector, I think it's going to just continue to spiral and have us grow into the next generation of things to come. We work very closely as a company and as a country with JAMPRO, with the GSS, to look at ways that we can market ourselves. We have found by partnering and collaborating with other countries, there is a significant advantage for us. So as we look at the SDG migration of things coming from the SEZ perspective, there is a tremendous opportunity for us to continue to grow in a global space, if you will. I think the pandemic has taught us all that we do live in a global world. And just prior to the launch of the pandemic, I actually made a couple trips with JAMPRO to Colombia to look at opportunities for us to collaborate on ways to bring our opportunities together. And so I think as we continue to look at that, we will continue to see a lot of growth in that space and more sustainable growth within the sector that I participate in and growth in that. And we can then share best practices as to how some of our counterparts have done things to help us grow and evolve even more efficiently and more effectively. So, you know, I look forward to that as part of the next generation of growth. You know, we look to continue to move up the food chain and explore other types of technologies and things that we can do as a country. And I think it's in these forums that are going to help us facilitate that type of growth and allow us to move forward. So I look forward to what the SDG will offer, and I think this is a very welcomed opportunity for us to participate in.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline. Yeah, I heard earlier from Diane that Jamaica has one of the lowest, unemployment figures at the moment in its history. I think the BPOs have played quite a role in that, in also creating decent jobs for many. Also that people who come from universities or have a reasonably advanced education that otherwise maybe will go abroad and be a loss for Jamaica as well, which I think in the Caribbean has been an issue also in losing a lot of talent after the government invests in education. Yeah, and then this is a first round of questions that we now finished. I would like to ask a follow-up question to each of you with a very short answer, and then maybe we can take some questions from the floor. I would like to ask, and then starting with Diane again, what you see as one of the biggest challenges in this whole transition towards more sustainable economic zones, and if you see a role of the government, and an even a bigger role of the government in accelerating that process.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Paul. Yes, you talked about training and skills upgrade. The skills is, and I think several of my colleagues here have spoken about skills. Human talent is the critical issue in how we develop our special economic zones and how we develop our economy. So one of the things JAMPRO has done is to work with the IDB to create a global services sector project which aims to upskill 24,000 young people over 5 years. So I can't talk more about it now because it's quite involved, but we have an apprenticeship program, we have a competitive fund which co-funds training with private sector companies. So there are a number of initiatives under that program, and we're actually creating a technology innovation district as well under that program. And all of this is to build the skills of the young people and equip them for the jobs of tomorrow. Obviously, I would say financing is another key issue because financing is expensive, first of all, and also most zones will not build speculatively. So we have to find anchor tenants, and we work very closely with our developers to try to find anchor tenants for their new zones. So if you're building a multi-occupant zone, at least you start with one tenant so that you're able then to build in phases. I think the whole question of the financing gap which developing countries face, there's a lot of money is swashing around the international markets that is looking for climate-smart investments, but it's hard for developing countries to access this funding, and I think this was spoken about at the Summit of the Americas, partly because we don't have the projects of the right scale, we don't have the projects that actually quantify the types of green energy and green opportunity for that these climate smart or environmentally focused funds want to invest in. So green bonds is fine, but how do we develop the projects? And project packaging is something I'm very passionate about at the moment, because I don't think we have enough people who can help us to write the projects in the right way to attract the green funds that are out there. So I think that is something that we really, really need to work on. And I think also getting our private developers aligned around the special, the sustainable development goals, I think is another critical area. But if the funding is there and we help them to access the funding by packaging the projects correctly, that is what I think will change that picture. So is there a role for government? Absolutely. The policies that I mentioned, the green investment strategy, these linkages policy, these are ways in which we can help to direct the private sector down the path of accepting and integrating the special, the SDGs more into their new developments.
Well, thank you, Adriana. I think it is a very, I mean, that is a bright spot on the horizon, is that there is a lot of appetite for sustainable finance. There are a lot of institutions looking for that, but yes, you have to have the right projects available for them to get into it. And education, again, I'm very happy that more and more investment promotion agencies are taking up that role. 10, 15 years ago, it wasn't even on the agenda. But we have seen it in Costa Rica, in Jamaica, and in other countries, that investment promotion agencies taking that now much more serious in trying to match the people who come out of these schools with the skills that are required in the industries that they serve. So with that, I'd like to go to Gustavo and ask him the same question. In what do you see as the roles of the public sector, and how, as an association, do you think you can affect that?
Okay. As you know, Paul, in our previous meeting before this launching today, this Global Alliance, we have been speaking a lot about the new generation of special economic zones, the future, the concept of free trade zone 4.0. And for me, this new generation of SDGs, I think there is the place in which the employment want to go. Really, the human talent is the most important. We have been trying for a long time to attract, to relocate companies. Maybe it's the moment to relocate the talent to our scopes. And for that, we are working with our affiliates. We have done a checklist about the 11 Sustainable Development Goals and 19 programs. To any affiliate in ASFA can do this checklist, ask itself what I am doing about these SDGs. And actually, when in the first question, in the first checklist of our special economic zones, many of them currently are working on that. We have two great examples here, Concoyol and Zona Franca Bogotá. So we think our special economic zones already understood this. This is not only a development and sustainable compromise. It's a really competitive advantage. And we continue working on that, because sharing these best practices with the rest of special economic zones in the region, asking ourselves about this checklist, for sure, is the way to attract these SDGs in our region. And finally, continues working with alliance. Every alliance, for example, with IPAs, with investment promotion agencies. Every investment promotion agency in the region have to bring with them our special economic zones advantages. We are working a lot of that, as we are doing GACES with WIPA, for example. Also, the public, private, and academy alliance. And finally, also working in our territory with the local entities working in a smart island, because the special economic zones, smart cities, because special economic zones, we are not an island in a territory. We work with the local suppliers, with the local companies, the technological transfer. So I think this is so important, because special economic zones are developed the entire region around there.
Yeah, anchoring these zones within the local economy. Carlos, I'm not going to ask you exactly the same question, because I already know that the Costa Rican government is just on top of this. But what I would like to ask you, how you work together with CINDE as a zone. I think I have already got a lot of signals that there is a lot of cooperation, but how does that work?
Well, the case of CINDE is one very interesting. I basically spent 7 years of my life working in CINDE, so I know the institution very well. Basically, CINDE is an organization that is based on private sector type of organization, but uses government funds and private sector funds in order to create not only promotion of Costa Rica as investment promotion, but also improvement of the competitiveness of the country. And one of the most important programs is something our colleague Isa has been talking about, which is these alliances between public and private sector in order to improve the skills of the people and in order to improve new careers, new areas. For example, there is a fund that is in the free zone area that basically allows to provide a special kind of fellowships for people that are getting careers that are not common in Costa Rica. So through CINDE, we, the free zones and the companies, work together in order to say, hey, look, these are the skills that we don't have yet. So we need to bring knowledge in order to improve that area. For example, there is a specific area in cybersecurity, very important nowadays. So we're bringing experts to create the knowledge that is needed in those areas. So I think that one of the big, let's say, achievements of CINDE has been not only to generate positive foreign direct investment flows to Costa Rica, but also to look prospectively into what are the new areas of investment promotion. And that, I think that that's been critical, and that's been one of the biggest success, not only attracting, but creating the basement for those future needs.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, you have been on the cutting edge of many, in many areas. João Paulo, the same question to you. And what do you think that your government can do further to make that transformation of your zone, for instance, more into sustainable zone, or maybe even an SDG model zone?
Okay, Paul, we believe that there are like 4 pillars in which we can work together with the government, particularly. One is developing the proper rule of law for the free zones in Colombia. I believe that that's something that is very important. We work very close with the government in order to make it real. We develop new decrees, new laws in order to make it more sustainable from the legal point of view of seeing it. That's something that is very important, and that the investors always are looking for, to have a real sustainability from the legal part. Also, I believe that it's very important to work on creating the awareness and training for the users of the free zones in order to work together in actions in order to diminish the carbon footprint, for example, or carbon neutrality that permits a periodic monitoring of the impact of these activities in terms of having it defined in such a short or medium terms actions in order to develop these activities. And also, I believe that it's very important to work together not only with the rule of law, but also with the environment of the free zones, making more easily for the people to get access to the free zone, or getting back to their homes or to their universities in order to study, to develop their skills if they don't study inside our free zone. But in Bogota, we have more than 100 universities around the city in where these people studies. And also working together on developing diverse programs in order to attract the labor for people that has been reconciliated, in our surrounding for the peace program that we have in Colombia, or diversity of the gender, for example, to have more equality on that. I think that, there are many, many ways of working together, as Carlos and Gustavo mentioned, in this alliance between the local, national government with the private sector, particularly with the free zones. But I think that if we have the opportunity to do that, we will be able to be more sustainable and be more effective on these matters that always are very important to developing of our free zones.
Thank you very much. I heard a lot of keywords there being mentioned, SDG related. Jacqueline, are there any issues that you think that, or any things that the government, that special economic zones can do for businesses like yours? We heard education, for instance, that could be maybe an interesting area for you, but maybe I'll let you speak.
Thank you. Well, I think Diane said it best. Money, money, money. She didn't say it like that, though. But financing on a much smaller scale is something that I think we smaller sectors, would need to help facilitate our growth, to gain greater efficiencies in the operations that we have for sustainability in many different spaces. So that, I think, is one of the key areas. And as we talk about education, I think we need to be very specific. And we lose a lot of really talented resources to migration because we're unable to provide opportunities for them in key sectors that we as a country are looking to grow into. And I can personally speak to that because that was my passion when I started this business. So I've lost some great talent from a technical perspective by migrating to opportunities that are affording them much greater incomes in other countries. So I think the more we can educate at all the different levels to get people to the levels that they need to be so that we can compete in those spaces, to include cybersecurity, which is another area that I'm very passionate about and looking into. But again, we can groom the talent. I know we have those resources that are very talented, but when the opportunities present themselves, we often lose them because, it's which comes first, the chicken or an egg, and we have that challenge. The only, I think, other thing for smaller companies such as myself, or, being that small fish in the big pond, just looking at opportunities for us to collaborate with the government and some of the private sectors as to how we can better market the local entities for substantial and sustainable growth. You know, we don't normally have all of the opportunities available for us for marketing that business to get that reach, but our performance and our infrastructures do suggest that we are just as comparable as our counterparts. And I think that as we talk about the global sustainability of this industry, we should not lose sight of the smaller players in the space and what the contributions are that they can make. I think that would be mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jacqueline, for that. We have a few more minutes. Is there anybody in the room who would like to ask a question? Here in the front. Is there a microphone? Yeah. Now, but also for the others that they can hear it. Can you bring the microphone here to the front? If you can introduce yourself, and I know who you are, but...
Well, my name is Juan Operti from Uruguay. I would like to...
Closer.
I'm in the board of the World Free Zone Organization until a few days. And, well, first of all, I would like to congratulate this panel. But the only reflection I would like to make, if it's possible for World Free Zone Organization and for GASES to perhaps think about the commission of the future to create. And inside that, you know, it was an initiative in Finland, and perhaps in that initiative include the future of the work and the work of the future, which is one of the pillars of the GDS 2030, and also ethics codes, as I was mentioned by my colleague here, Juan Pablo Rivera. I think that two pillars are key for special economic zones and free trade zones. And really was a high level panel. Lisandro? No.
Thank you for that suggestion. The lady there on the left.
Hi, my name is Claudia Avila. I come from the Mexican government. My question is for the panelists to know if the global companies that are on the site selection process really look for sustainable issues before cost or other determinants for FDI. How true is what you are promoting from a government or promotion strategy is truth when the global companies are really deciding the place, how much the cost weights versus sustainability, or is something that we want to happen, or what are the global companies thinking about?
That's a very good question. We have been, as UNCTAD, have been reporting a bit on that and saying that more and more companies are taking these sustainability issues more and more serious, also in their location decisions. And they all have their different standards, and you have a lot of different companies that have, you know, a different way of reporting on that, and also shareholders who may be, you know, taking it more serious or less serious. So it depends on the companies, but we do see a trend that companies are taking this serious. It is not a non-issue anymore. It is an issue nearly for every company. But maybe Diane can say a little bit about that as being in an investment promotion agency, if she has dealt with this issue before.
Thanks for the question, Claudia. Yes, we have dealt with this question. I think sometimes companies come for the cost reduction and stay for the quality, because maybe their driver is not upfront environmental sustainability, but then they realize that they are in an environment which requires sustainability and which is beginning more and more to demand sustainability. So we have a very vibrant NGO here called Jamaica Environment Trust, which really looks very closely at any environmental issue. And so a lot of multinationals think they're coming to a developing country where there isn't that awareness of these issues, and then they quickly find that no, there is actually quite a strong awareness. There's a strong awareness of decent work, there's strong awareness of the quality of water, the quality of the environment, the building codes. There are a number of things that are very much on the agenda that they have to pay attention to. So I would say that the impulse, the imperatives are growing in terms of the awareness of these, the SDGs and the whole environment, and trying to integrate themselves more, because we give a lot of advice as an IPA to investors who want to locate in the country. So we can channel and steer them and guide them towards more sustainability.
Carlos, you want to also say a few words on this?
Hello. I want to share the experiences of our largest customers. The largest customers that we have, all of them has basically take the base of the sustainable goals. They don't foresee that those goals are in place and there is a strategy to have those. I said that they will not take us in count. Nevertheless, as always, competitiveness is the key. But let's say the asking entry level should be sustainable goals, because most of the large companies, particularly multinational companies, have in their goals sustainable goals. And most of them are moving into a net zero emissions by 2035. So we all have to be clear that this is a reality, and then we have to make the movement in order to incorporate those values in our value proposal, because that is going to be, let's say, the entry level. And from there on, we all have to be the most competitive ones in whatever we want.
Thank you, Carlos. We can take one more question. So the gentleman here in the front. Hello. Okay, sorry. Now two more questions then.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Elio Sanchez, CEO Multimodal Marine from Venezuela and Panama, based in the special free zone. And the question is to the panel today is the topic. The topic is the education, and the government need to be prepared to many people. The investment from the side, investment, the company, need a look and especially handling in this special and punctual country. For example, in Costa Rica, I know that has many years ago, the Intel company will prepare the people there over 20, 25 years ago. Many people speaking in English, and especially to manufacturing the final product, and etc. And we find to expansion our company around the world and look at the market and the financial topic included. We need a handle specialist. We need clear rules, and we need the facility to grow in our business. Congratulations from the panel, and in special from panel from the state there, and my country there in Panama. This is my point of view. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, for those inputs. And the gentleman here, but then we have to stop because the Prime Minister is coming to this room in half an hour or so, and we have to get ready.
Thank you.
You have the floor.
Jeffrey Mason, Charter Cities Institute. So this idea of sustainable development model zones is quite aligned, I think, with what our organization is doing. So what I'm wondering, from the point of view of the zones you're operating, what do you see currently as the biggest impediment to actually being able to advance sustainable development from the tools you have? Would a more expansive policy framework to be able to do sort of more of your own self-governing, broader freedom to do more mixed-use type of development? We've heard a lot about education and incorporating into surrounding communities. So what would reformed zone framework look like in your minds that would better allow you to advance these sustainability goals?
No, that's a very big question. I think we don't have time for all that. Paulo, you have any thoughts on this?
I don't know if the right answer could be the sensibility about this particular topic and the culture of the people around sustainability. And that's something that I believe that the last 2 years with the pandemic for sure has developed a lot all around the world. And today, you cannot imagine a company or a free zone that is not thinking about sustainability in any ways. You know, in the use of resources, in the developing skills of the people, trying to maintain the skills and the capacities within the companies, because that's one of the big challenges that companies are suffering right now with the pandemic, because people don't want to work anymore at the offices, let's say. They want to work virtual. Companies want them to come to work at the site. They want to be recognized for whatever things they do. So I believe that that's something that has to be inside the administrations of the free zones and the administration of the companies in order to make it sustainable and develop the culture inside the environment, let's say.
Thank you very much for that. We had labeled this workshop as SDG model zones, but it is, you know, a whole process in getting zones towards more SDG compliance. And I think we saw some excellent examples here in the panel, how the different stakeholders are working in this area. And a lot of keywords were mentioned, like education is very important, carbon neutrality, working together also with the small and medium-sized enterprise sector, gender diversity, public-private partnerships, a lot of these elements, all these stones that make that building. I think we have to leave it here. As I said, we have an exciting session coming with a signing ceremony and a keynote address by the Prime Minister of Jamaica. I'd like to thank all the panel members for a very exciting discussion. I thank the audience for also their participation, and look forward to see you then at the coffee break and in the next session. Thank you.